How are you today? Looking forward to a quick edition of Old-Timers Trivia. You can reach us at oldtimersstore@aol.com. That's got two S's in it, oldtimersstore@aol.com, for your comments, to ask questions, and even better, to sign up so that you get further notices. Starting out, BMW stands for okay. We did catch somebody in our local game with the British Motor Works, but Bavarian Motor Works. Who shot JR? You remember that summer while we waited for the answer? In fact, there was a writer's strike which delayed it even longer. It wasn't resolved until episode 4 of, I believe it was the fourth series. Black Mariah is it is a police van. In fact, here's an image of the police, or of a police van, the Black Mariah. Ben Franklin was born in Now, of course, if he had been born in England, he would not have been eligible to be president, but in fact, he was born in Boston. He may not have been inclined for political office, and I believe he was a little bit older than many of the people who served. He was born in Boston and at a young age traveled to Philadelphia, where he made his home. Ford Motor Company's first model was, and there's Henry up there at the top right. We caught at least one of our local players who said, well, A comes before T. That's why I answered Model A. The Night on Bald Mountain was composed by you remember that one from Fantasia? Certainly a high point. And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were blank. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Okay, round 2. Which of the following was not a band leader for Johnny Carson? Irving Aronson had his own radio program at one point. He was a band leader, but not affiliated with Johnny Carson. Oh, you remember this, the Brooklyn Dodgers. They ran in Brooklyn from 1876 until, you remember that year, I'm sure. 1957. What is the meaning of the word svelte? Slender and elegant. Okay. Dark Shadows. Who is the vampire who is a principal character on Dark Shadows? Barnabas Collins. You all rushed home from school to see the latest adventures. Author of The Jungle, a novel about immigrants and the meatpacking industry. Upton Sinclair. We got a couple of chuckles with some of our wrong answers in this one. Certainly this might be appropriate today even. Elvis Presley's first movie appearance. Love Me Tender. Also, he was very well accepted in the movie. Love Me Tender was a song that became an important hit for him. Actors in Thunderbirds. A lot of familiar names there, but in fact, Thunderbirds was one of these shows where marionettes were used. You certainly remember Martin Landau and Barbara Bain. They appeared together in Mission Impossible. They also appeared in Space 1999. Martin Landau in a very early role in North by Northwest, where he played one of the henchmen. And of course, John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton, early Doctor Who actors. In fact, I believe John Pertwee was the initial Doctor Who. Option D, David Vincent and Roy Thinnes. Roy Thinnes played in the TV program The Invaders, and in fact, he played the role of David Vincent. Round 3. In 2009, there were approximately 4,298 shopping centers in China. A decade later, there were approximately 10 times as many. I just came across that fact in reading a magazine and thought I would throw it in. Now, I know it's not an old-timers question, but it didn't have to do with Taylor Swift. In fact, if you ever see Taylor Swift's name as an option, you can pretty much scratch that off as being an incorrect answer. I know this is old-timers trivia. Barbara Cartland was, give you a moment to read these. And she was the author of many, many romance novels. Many, many romance novels. In fact, I'm guessing that some of you never heard of her, and others of you knew her quite well. Gymkhana. A gymkhana is a specialized sporting or athletic event. In fact, I first heard of a gymkhana from my friend David. David drove automobiles like we see in this picture. It's not his car, but he and his son William were very active. Now, the term gymkhana goes way back, not referring to just automobile racing, though my first exposure to it was, again, David and friend. But again, as you notice in the bottom picture, it gets used more broadly than that, and again is an old term. Now, I promised David a shout out. This is not a paid commercial coming next. It's simply a gesture for a good friend of mine. In fact, up together. Dave likes to say that our mothers were pregnant together, and in fact, that's true. Dave acquired a number of years ago the Susquehanna Motorsports. You can reach him at rallylights.com. Dave and his son run this. You call at that number and you'll more than likely be talking with David's son William. They have a number of products. You can see the slides listed on the side. I'm sorry, some of the brands listed on the slide. Hella being the German company and the largest maker of headlights. Sparco, RJS, gear like we see at the right in terms of sporting outfits, driving outfits and equipment, and a number of other products. So check with Dave, check with William. And again, that was not a paid commercial, just a shout out for a friend. Where is Mark Twain buried? Okay, Mark is buried in Elmira, New York. How did he get to Elmira, New York? Well, I like to tell the story, but of course I exaggerate a little bit here. Mark had had some success, and he was traveling to Europe to write about his adventures. And lo and behold, he met Charles Langdon. Became friends, and this is where I exaggerate a little bit. Charles reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a picture of his sister Olivia. Hey, want to see a picture of my sister? Well, Mark Twain, or Samuel Clemens, his real name, Samuel Clemens, was smitten. And lo and behold, when they returned from Europe, from travels, Mark came to visit. And having an interest in Olivia, well, Olivia's father was not happy with this. He was a fairly well-to-do man in town, and probably more than fairly well-to-do, a wealthy man in town, and didn't want this ne'er-do-well courting his daughter. But in fact, Mark pursued her, and they were ultimately married. They spent their lives together, rotating between Elmira and their place in Connecticut. Mark did some of his writing in Elmira. The family was subsequently buried there. And for those of you that don't know, there's where Elmira is located. So you can see that Mark went out of his way to visit Olivia. Which is not true? Rochester is a Rochester is a character in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Cherry Ames. Cherry is a female character, of course, in a series of 27 mystery novels with hospital settings. In fact, the first Cherry Ames novel is called Cherry Ames Student Nurse. And then the subsequent volumes went on to have her playing the role in a number of different nursing settings, including something like Cherry Ames, Dude Ranch Nurse. Now the others, option B, that was of course Little Annie Fanny. Oh, let me back up, stick with Cherry Ames for a minute. I came across Cherry Ames for the first time when I was out looking at some books in the estate sale. And I recognized not Cherry Ames, but the fact that she was done by the same company that did Hardy Boys. So I couldn't help but pick up Cherry Ames. And I'm sorry I sold her. I subsequently sold her on eBay. But I really should have kept Cherry Ames. I later met a lady who had gone into the medical field, receiving advanced degrees. She told me that she was inspired by Cherry Ames, inspired to go into the medical field. I followed up by reading online that many young women went into the medical field as a result of having read Cherry Ames. Okay, as I started to say, option B, that would be Little Annie Fanny. Option C, sung by Neil Diamond, would be Cherry Cherry. Option D, these were songs done by Ed Ames. You may know Ed Ames today better as having played a role on The Daniel Boone Show. El Cid was a Castilian knight and warlord in medieval Spain. He was given the title El Cid by the Moors. He fought for the Moors at some point, and the title is the Lord. He is a historical figure, appears in many forms, an epic poem for Castile. There was later, or more recently rather, a movie, El Cid, with Charlton Heston playing the role. Option A, that would be the Cisco Kid. Okay, moving on. The bonus question. The McDonald brothers opened the first McDonald's in 1940. They charged 15 cents for a hamburger. In today's money, that would be how much? $2.75. It's called inflation. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. Encourage you to subscribe. You can also communicate with us by writing to oldtimersstore@aol.com. oldtimersstore@aol.com. Now that's 2 S's. Your contributions help keep Old Timers Trivia alive. Please go to Donor Box and support us. Also, you can visit us at the Old Timers store. Find us on eBay. We have a number of items there, and we put new ones up on a regular basis. In fact, you can subscribe there so that you get the new communications that eBay sends out when we post new items. Don't forget, we have the following editions. We have the original edition. It's designed for team play. It's the version we play with our friends here locally. Now, it has pauses so that teams can discuss their answers, so that teams can tally their points. The challenge edition is the same format, except that for many of the questions, not all, but for many of the questions, we've eliminated the alternatives, the choices, the multiple choice format. And that's for the rough and tough game players. And of course, you're playing the quick edition, which allows you to move more quickly through the quiz. It's a variant of the original edition with the options. Okay, we're wrapping up now. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you with Game 5. And don't forget to send a note to oldtimersstore@aol.com. It's got 2 S's.